Welcome to the KSEP online training video. In order to get the most out of this video, it would be helpful if you also have a printed copy of the KSEP rubric in front of you. You can print a copy of this tool from the website where you access the video. There is also a user's guide available that you may find helpful as well. Did you know that only 38% of Fresno County children enter kindergarten ready to learn? Research has shown that a student's readiness for school has not only been found to predict a smooth transition into kindergarten, but it's also been proven to predict later school achievement. Some students enter our schools behind their peers, and they never catch up. Universal screening procedures, such as using the KSEP upon entry to school, provides an opportunity for the teacher to gauge the skill level of each student to determine necessary interventions early in a child's school career. It is much easier to help a kindergarten student reach the level of their peers than in later grades. Fresno County began using the KSEP in 2012-13 school year and now has 3 years of data on the readiness factors of children entering kindergarten. In 2014-15, 38% of our children in Fresno were ready to enter kindergarten. This single metric, captured countywide, allows us to assist teachers in understanding which students are at risk and should receive more careful observation and monitoring throughout the year. Understand as a school, district, and county where we can direct more resources. Participate in important countywide initiatives with partners pursuing a collective impact for the most at-risk youth. Understand as a county the impact of resources allocated to 0 to 5. Our primary goal is to understand how can we all work together to make sure our children enter school ready to learn. The KSEP is a 13-item screening tool designed to assess a child's school readiness through observational ratings of 6 social-emotional and 7 school-ready knowledge items. The items assessed include social, emotional development and behaviors, persistence and ability to focus, and of course, cognitive, academic, and language ability. This research-based observation screen has been shown to predict later grade level achievement and should be our first indicator that a child may need some additional follow-up. Teachers should observe their students for at least 3 weeks to determine their social, emotional, and school-ready knowledge. Between weeks 3 and 5, each child is rated on the 13 items utilizing a rubric to promote consistency. Based on teacher observations, students are placed into one of the following categories of kindergarten readiness: ready to go, needs quarterly monitoring, needs monthly monitoring, or needs immediate follow-up. This information is useful to us as a county so that we can have an annual snapshot of how well our students are entering school ready to learn. Additionally, though, this could be valuable information for a classroom, school, and district so that time and resources can be allocated as needed. The first requirement of the KSEP is to fill in the demographic data for each child. If you are using an Illuminate scanner to enter your data, much of this information will be already pre-populated from the system. For example, school, name, and birth date. A few key items, though, do need to be collected separately. These items are very important in our data review. The KSEP is considered an outcome of our efforts in the 0 to 5 arena, so understanding whether or not the child had preschool and or transitional kindergarten prior to kindergarten, for example, is extremely important. Additionally, what type of preschool is also a useful discussion point. If you are simply capturing your information on paper, you'll of course need to write down all of these demographic descriptions for each child. If you're, however, using Illuminate scanning, you will only need to capture 4 items separately. These items are listed on the slide with A, B, C, and D. Language used when assessing this child, the student's primary language, preschool attendance, and whether or not the child has an IEP. The KSEP should already be set up for you in Illuminate with these additional 4 data points. If you're watching this video with your grade level peers or another team, you may want to pause for a moment to discuss how you'll be capturing the KSEP information. Will you be using paper? Or will you use Illuminate scanners? If paper, who will be collecting this information for you? If Illuminate, there should be a KSEP assessment available to you where you can print scanners. Do you know how to go about this task? If not, you may need to connect with the Illuminate representative at your school or district to ensure you know the best way to complete the task. One of the most exciting things about the KSEP is that it allows us to capture information about a child's readiness for school, not only on the academic side, but also their level of social-emotional development. Young children cannot learn to read if they have problems that distract them from educational activities, problems following directions, problems getting along with others, and controlling negative emotions, and problems that interfere with relationships with peers, teachers, and parents. Understanding then if a child will need some extra help with social-emotional development at the beginning of the school year will be useful information. Additionally, understanding the magnitude of children with this need across classrooms, schools, and districts in our county will be extremely helpful when planning, allocating resources, providing training and technical assistance. The next couple of slides will provide some examples on how to use the rubric in this area. Take a moment to review the social-emotional part of the rubric. Read each item and the rubric levels. If you are meeting with your grade level or another team, discuss any questions you may have with your team members to ensure you are rating consistently. Have you had instances in the past you can share and come to some consensus on how you would rate? If you are doing the CaseUp for the first time this year, once you have collected your observation notes and are ready to rate, this may be another time you'll want to connect with your team. It's important that we have some consistency in how we rate. Here are some examples to help you in looking at the rubric and how you would do your ratings. In item 1A, this student is about to eat his lunch. He struggles to open his milk. After a few attempts, he asks the lunchroom helper to assist him with his milk, saying, "Open my milk." And looking at the rubric, seeks adult help when appropriate, you can see that to master this area, a student must seek adult assistance and can express specific needs related to the tasks. Because the student did ask for specific help, they have mastered this concept of seeking adult help when appropriate. In contrast, in item 1B, these two children sat for several minutes without helping themselves or requesting help. When the teacher asked the students why they weren't eating, they explained that they had items they couldn't open on their own. Because they were unable to complete the tasks and they did not seek help, we would provide a rating of not yet here. While we are rating based on one example here, please note that rating should not be given after only one observation of a situation. Observation over time to confirm consistent behavior should be considered. If you're watching this video with the team, you may want to pause here to discuss this part of the rubric and these examples. Would you have provided similar ratings? Here are some additional examples. This time for item 6, persisting with tasks after experiencing difficulty. In item 6A, this child is tracing a circle on his paper. He struggled a bit at first because his first few attempts didn't create circles as perfect as he wanted. He persisted, however, and after 4 attempts, he was able to make a circle he was proud of. At no time during these attempts did the child experience frustration and require redirection by the teacher. This child has mastered persistence. In item 6B, the child in the middle was doing a puzzle for a short time until he experienced some frustration when he couldn't find the right shape to fit in one of the pieces. Immediately upon frustration, he picked up a hammer and began hammering instead of working with the puzzle, and then reached over to his neighbor and started taking away his puzzle pieces, which were already placed. The teacher had to stop what she was doing and redirect the child to his puzzle. Once she assisted him, however, he did go back to working on his puzzle. This child has almost mastered persistence. Here is another opportunity to pause and discuss if you're watching with your team members. Do you have any questions about what was discussed here, either within the rubric or the ratings that were given? As we know, students currently enter school with a vast array of knowledge. Some children know a great amount and have had many robust experiences to draw from. Others know very little and have maybe never even held a pencil or a book. It is important for us to capture this information for a variety of reasons, as we discussed earlier. The next part of the rubric involves understanding how much academic knowledge a child already has. Of course, the CaseUp is only a screening tool and will not capture every single thing a child knows or doesn't know, but this will give us a snapshot look. Take a moment to review the items here and the rubric before we move on to some examples. If you're meeting with your team, you may also want to pause here to discuss some of the items. Are there any questions you may have regarding the rubric items? Have you had any experiences from the past you may want to discuss to make sure you're rating consistently with your team members? Rating these school readiness indicators in the academic area is probably something you're very used to and won't provide you with much difficulty. We did provide a couple of examples here, however, for you to think about and discuss. In item 9, a teacher is playing a game with several of the children that involves rolling a die, seeing the number, and then counting out that number of cookies from the tray. The teacher rolls a 5, and the child in the blue counts out 5 cookies and says, 5 galletas, or biscuits. This child understands that numbers represent a quantity, as evidenced by her ability to select the accurate amount of objects upon request. She would be rated at the mastered level for this item. In item 10, a child is given a piece of paper with her name written on it and told to copy her name. She is able to write some letter-like symbols, so she is emerging in this area. Once you have familiarized yourself with the 13 items in the rubric, it will be important for you to consider how you'll collect your anecdotal notes. As mentioned earlier, the rating should be based upon a number of observations, so taking and organizing your notes will be very useful for this task. Some ideas for developing a structure could include considering your schedule. What time of day would be best to collect information about different indicators in the rubric? Format. How will you collect notes in a way that will be quickly accessible and easy to organize? Reviewing the notes you have collected over time will help you immensely when it comes to doing the ratings in weeks 4 and 5. If you're reviewing this with your team, you may now want to pause and discuss ideas about how to collect and organize your observational notes. Undoubtedly, each of you participates in at least one learning community at your school. This resource will be invaluable in helping you with rating and with next steps. Once you've completed your ratings, you'll want to sit down with your team and discuss any challenges you're having. For example, I'm seeing this with X child, and here are some sample work documents and/or notes. What do you think? How would you rate them on item Y? Your PLC would also be a great place to dialogue once you have your classroom data. One idea would be for you all to share how many children you have that are rating low in social-emotional development. Brainstorming activities to promote social-emotional development would be a great use of your time. Now let's talk for a moment about Illuminate. If you're not using Illuminate to aid in the recording and reporting your data, feel free to pass through the next few slides. Almost every district in our county has access to this tool, however, so it seems worthwhile to call out that Illuminate can make your data reporting very quick and simple. Every district should be able to access the KSEP assessment in Illuminate and print scanners for your students. Scanning is a quick and simple task using your document camera. Once you have the scanners printed for each child, simply bubble in your ratings from the form. You can then use a document camera to scan in the data for each child. Once you've scanned in your data, summary charts will be available at the classroom, school, and district level. These charts will help you in the following ways. Response frequency. Understand areas of strength and gaps by each of the 13 items. Question groups. There should be a report available to you that shows you how your students fared in the 2 domains of social, emotional, and academic areas. Student comparison. You'll be able to see which of your students will need the most follow-up and support from you on a monthly or quarterly basis. Site peer comparison for teachers. Your site leadership will be able to tell which of your classrooms will need the most supports to get your kids on track by the end of kindergarten. District peer comparisons for schools. Your district can review which schools need the most resources to ensure that your students are better prepared when they come to you, in addition to which schools are having great success. We want you to know that we greatly appreciate your efforts in administering the KSEP. We hope that you get a lot out of the information from this initial observation of your students that will guide your actions going forward. But we also want you to know that the community will use this information at the summary level to understand how we can better support you. The partners listed here are currently discussing how to use this data to allocate resources where they are needed and then to understand the impact of our actions. Here are some ways in which we have used and plan to use the KSEP data. We can document the preparation levels of students when they enter kindergarten and follow their progress unlike ever before. We can target additional supports to communities and groups who are disproportionately entering school without readiness. We can inform community funders and policymakers about the needs of young children with a universal platform of assessment. We can offer supports to kindergartners with a research-informed approach. We can create a KSEP professional learning community. The purpose of the KSEP is to understand more about our 0 to 5 efforts and to create dialogue as a community about how we can better support our children to enter school ready to learn. We are just beginning to learn how to best use this data. For example, we know that students with no preschool are more likely to come into kindergarten behind. Additionally, children who attended Head Start or state preschool are more likely to enter with enough skills to be ready or close to ready for school and less likely to need monthly or immediate follow-up. What we'd like to do next with the information we have, though, is to merge it with additional data points to understand the demographics of the students who are getting preschool. How can we target groups to encourage families to access preschool offerings? Or, is there an area that doesn't have enough preschool opportunities? Another example, for students who attend Head Start, which seem to be more prepared? Is it because they attended Head Start for more time? Are they more prepared emotionally than academically, or vice versa? There is so much that we can do with this data. We're just scratching the surface, but making good progress on using the data with more depth. We thank you again for your efforts. We are all in this together, and please know that we are here to support you in any way possible. If you need help with KSEP administration, please contact Dr. Amber Jacobo at FCOE or Mercedes Carmona at First 5, or your district testing coordinator. If you've looked at your data and you need some suggestions for interventions or resources, please contact your district ELA or ECE coordinator, or at FCOE Pamela McGee or Gina McNamara. We look forward to working with you and wish you a very successful school year. Thank you for all you do.